We sing how long Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing how long Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing how long Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, there is none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing how long Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing how long Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we can we always win, you're our champion. Oh, lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we live, you're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallow, hallow Yahuwah, for the King who is victorious. Yahuwah is the awesome one, there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, there's none like you. With you we live. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. Oh, Yahuwah is the awesome one, there is none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can, we always win. You're our champion. someone. There's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Oh, we lift our hands. We lift our voice. We celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. We lift our hands, we lift our voice, we celebrate our champion. We sing hallelujah, for the King who is victorious. You are the awesome one, and there's none like you. With you we win. You're our champion. With you we can. We always win. You're our champion. Hallelujah, you have won the victory. Hallelujah, you have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah, you have won the victory. Hallelujah, you have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah, you have won the victory. Hallelujah, you have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah, you have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah. You have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah. You have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah. You have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah. You have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death could not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. Hallelujah. You have won the victory. Hallelujah. You have won it all for me. Death did not hold you down. You are the risen King, seated in majesty. You are the risen King. You are awesome. Yahuwah, you are great. Yahuwah, you are worthy. worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. On heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. On heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. You're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. On heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. On heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heavens and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heaven and the earth will proclaim your grace. You are awesome. You are great. You are worthy. And you're worthy to be praised. I'll magnify your name. All heaven and the earth will proclaim your undivided attention. Greetings from the messengers of Yahuwah's kingdom, a brave belief congregation located in South Carolina. I want to encourage you to be steadfast, keep your head up, keep your shoulders squared, and keep your heart and your feet in and upon the Torah, because we can't go wrong as long as we continue to put him first and esteem him in everything that we do. And it is so. And it is so. I pray that everyone rested well this last Layla and even this afternoon, that everyone has rested well and that you're ready to dive in and to learn. We're going to begin with the Baruch of the Torah. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah. Baruch Yahuwah. The Baruch one. The Baruch one. Baruch is Yahuwah. Baruch is Yahuwah. The Baruch one. The Baruch one. For all eternity. For all eternity. Baruch atah. Baruch atah. Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Our supreme one. Our supreme one. King of the universe. King of the universe. King of the universe. King of the universe. Who selected us from all the peoples. Who selected us from all the peoples. And gave us his Torah. And gave us his Torah. Baruch atah. Baruch atah. Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Giver of the Torah. Giver of the Torah. And it is so. And it is so. Baruch atah. Baruch atah. Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Our supreme one. Our supreme. King of the universe. King of the universe. Who gave us the Torah of truth. Who gave us the Torah of truth. And implanted eternal life within us. And implanted eternal life within us. Baruch atah. Baruch atah. Yahuwah. Yahuwah. Giver of the Torah. Giver of the Torah. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. Now we will have the reading of the Ten Commandments done by Mattathias. And it is so. And it is so.
Devarim 5:6-22. Aleph. I am Yahuwah, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the bed of slavery. Bet you shall have no other power before me. You shall not make you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the mind beneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself unto them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that are hungry and keep my commandments. Gimel. You shall not take the name of Yahuwah your power and falsify it, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name and empties it. Doubt it. Guard the Sabbath day to set it apart, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. In it you shall not do any work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your foreigner that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a servant in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out of there through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore Yahuwah your power commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Hey, esteem your Abba and your Ema as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged and that it may go well with you in the land which Yahuwah your power is about to give you. But you shall not murder. Zayin, neither shall you commit adultery. Ket, neither shall you steal. Tet, neither shall you bear false witness against your neighbor. Yud, neither shall you desire your neighbor's Isha, neither shall you covet your neighbor's bed, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. These words Yahuwah spoke unto all your assembly in the mount out of the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the thick darkness with a great voice. And he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone and delivered them unto me. And it is so.
And it is so. Devarim chapter 6, verses 1 through 18. And it reads, These are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you are going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you and your son and your grandson, all the yamim of your life, and that your yamim may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah power of your Abbas has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shemath Yasharal, Yahuwah our power, Yahuwah is Akkad. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall ahab Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall, to what?
Bind to the mind.
To bind to the mind. Give the Torah access to your mind, your thinking process, your thinking center, the center where you process everything. And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates. And it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things that you filled not, and wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware, lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you, for your power is a jealous power among you. Lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have another song, please.
You're the beginning and forever. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning and forever. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning. And forever we worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning. And forever we worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You're the beginning. You're the beginning. And forever we worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. And we give you all. We give you all the esteem. We worship Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised. You are worthy. You are worthy to be praised.
We'll praise him, praise him. It is an esteem to be able to praise him. It is an esteem to be able to magnify his name. It is a great esteem to be able to acknowledge him in truth and in understanding. And it is so.
And it is so.
Let us turn our attention to Yahush, the son of Nun, chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 7 and we're going to confess verse 8. Very important that we keep this a part of our lifestyle, and it becomes a part of who we are, because you hear me say it many times over, that there are things and people that will challenge you and that will cause you, if you're not careful, to act unwisely.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is important that we ground ourselves in these very principles and instructions for our lives,
Right.
so that we can act wise in every situation, in every decision we make, every choice we make, and even every altercation that we find ourselves in. Because we can diffuse altercations if we just learn it's not a secret, but just learn the method of how to diffuse certain things before they escalate beyond our control. And we can do that by what? Acting wisely. We don't have to feed the fire, quench the fire.
That's right.
We have to learn how to put the fire out. And it is so.
And it is so.
Verse 7 reads, "Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go." Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit our time of confession, let us confess this together. Excuse me. "I will not let this scroll of the Torah
I will not let the scroll of the Torah
depart out of my mouth,
depart out of my mouth,
but I shall meditate in it,
but I shall meditate in it,
Yom and Layla,
Yom and Layla,
that I may observe to do
that I may observe to do
according to all that is written in it.
according to all that is written in it.
But then I shall make my way prosperous,
But then I shall make my way prosperous,
and then I shall act wisely."
and then I shall act wisely.
Now look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, "And you shall act wisely."
And you shall act wisely.
Look at your other neighbor and tell your other neighbor, "And you shall act wisely."
And you shall act wisely.
Take your hand and place it over your heart and say, "Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely."
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
Come on, I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
One more time, I endeavor
I endeavor
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have some.
There is none like you. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, there is none, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, oh no, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, there is none, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, oh no, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah, and find there is none like you. There is none, oh no, there is none like you. No one else can touch my heart. No one else can touch my heart like you do. I I can search.
I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah,
And find.
and find there is none like you.
There is none. There is none.
There is none like you.
No one else can touch my heart.
No one else can touch my heart like you do.
I can search.
I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah,
And find.
and find there is none like you.
There is none. There is none.
There is none like you.
No one else can touch my heart.
No one else can touch my heart like you do.
I can search.
I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah,
And find.
and find there is none like you.
There is none. Oh no.
There is none like you.
No one else can touch my heart.
No one else can touch my heart like you do.
I can search.
I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah,
And find.
and find there is none like you.
There is none. There is none.
There is like you.
No one else can touch my heart.
No one else can touch my heart like you do.
I can search.
I can search for all eternity, Yahuwah,
And find.
and find there is none like you.
Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah, oh my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. I will baruch your name. I will baruch your name. I will baruch your my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. Baruch Yahuwah. Oh, my soul, and all that is within me. I will baruch your name. 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 Come on, baruch his wonderful name. Come on, baruch that wonderful name. Baruch his name. Baruch his name. He's worthy of all praise. He's worthy of all esteem. Baruch him. Baruch him. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. And we praise him. We praise him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do. We appreciate him for just life. We appreciate him. We appreciate him. Mishlei 15:8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful, and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright, it is your delight. Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of the Abba, and he doth meditate upon it, and it is so.
And it is so.
Ibram 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him, and it is so.
And it is so.
Ayah 33:4, the Ruach of Abba Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Somebody said he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Yes, he is. He is a life giver.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, 3-15. Very important to have this truly bonded and fixated and jailed and melted and burned into our hearts.
That's right.
Very important. Verse 3, chapter 5 of Yehukin and Aleph. For this is the Ahab for Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult, because everyone having been begotten of Yahuwah overcomes the world. And this is the overcoming that has overcome the world, our belief. Who is the one who overcomes the world but he who believes that Yahush is the son of Yahuwah? This is the one that came by water and blood, Yahush Mashiach, not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach who bears witness, because the Ruach is the truth. Because there are three who bear witness, the Ruach and the water and the blood, and the three are in agreement. If we receive the witness of men, the witness of Yahuwah is greater, because this is the witness of Yahuwah, which he has witnessed concerning his son. The one who believes in the Son of Yahuwah has the witness in himself. The one who does not believe Yahuwah has made him a liar, because he has not believed the witness that Yahuwah has given concerning his son. And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us eternal life, and this life is in his son. He who possesses the son possesses life. He who does not possess the Son of Yahuwah does not possess life. I have written this to you who believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah, so that you know that you possess everlasting life, and so that you believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah. And this is the boldness that we have in him, that if we ask whatever according to his desire, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now we're going to do our affirmations, then our declaration, and then we're going to seal our time of praise, prayer, and worship with the writings. And it is so.
And it is so.
Repeat with me. I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I have the life and nature
I have the life and nature
of Yahuwah in my Ruach.
of Yahuwah in my Ruach.
That life is
That life is
the Torah of Yasharal.
the Torah of Yashar.
I purpose to walk in
I purpose to walk in
the Torah of life.
the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah
Yahush,
Yahush
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's Ahab
Yahuwah's Ahab
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching
He
me.
is teaching me.
He is teaching me.
He is leading me.
He is leading me.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach,
The Ruach
HaKodesh,
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah
of Yahuwah
in me is leading me.
in me is leading me.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah,
I walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush.
our Mashiach.
Al Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now our time of declaration and healing. Repeat with me, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
in the name of Yahush,
in the name of Yahush,
our Mashiach.
Al Mashiach,
We subdue ignorance
we subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
deliverance,
deliverance,
and salvation.
and salvation.
We decree
Torah
truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people, Yasharal.
Yasharal.
We unite,
We unite
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
I declare a time of rest and shalom in truth in Yahuwah through his son Yahushua Mashiach. And it is so.
And it is so.
Now as we stand before our King to bow before him, to declare and to seal this, let us bow before our King and let us say this together. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable
be desirable
before you,
before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
You may be seated in his presence. We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 14. And it is so.
And it is so.
Once again, I pray that everyone has had a Baruch Layla up until this noon time, as we are in a time of commemoration and celebration, a time to celebrate and a time to commemorate. Except organizing together. To commemorate and celebrate a time of rest, a time that was given unto us, his people. It is in the commandments and it is all throughout the writings. And in our time of resting, we always want to use wisdom and use wisdom in our time and fortify ourselves in our time of rest.
Right.
He told us no selling. He told us no buying or selling, and we are not to do any servile work. But that does not mean that we are not supposed to keep our minds shielded from the attacks.
That's right.
Or be idle during this time. It is a time that we're not trying to hurry up and push the time along. Many people, some people, I won't say many, but some people sleep the day away up until a certain time, and then they figure where the Sabbath is over. But you must understand that Abba Yahuwah has a plan for us as people. And in our time of rest, and if you read in the writings, you see that in their time of rest and in their time of celebration and commemoration, they always had that time set aside to study.
Mm-hmm.
They also had that time of impartation where they made sure that they were studying and keeping their minds guarded and keeping their hearts and minds full of the instructions of the Abba. Idle mind is a dangerous thing to have.
Sorry.
Why is it dangerous? Because when you're idle, this is how the enemy can come in and launch his greatest assault against us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we never be idle. And I'm not just saying that we are supposed to just study during the Sabbath rest, but it's a time that we come together as a tribe, as a unit, and we study and we learn together. And so I want to encourage you to make this a point of your regiment, whether you are with us or whether you are with someone else. Take that time to be a part of a community, a group where they are studying and where there is impartation, so that in our times of resting, we are not being idle.
That's right.
We're not being idle. You know, people spend time watching movies. People spend time watching different things, football games, basketball games, fights, and all of those things which you could do throughout the week. But it's important that we be creative with our time and that we use wisdom in our time management. Mm-hmm. So that while we're in our time of rest, we're not just, once again, being idle, but we are investing in that time that we are resting, and we're investing the writings of the Abba in our hearts and in our minds. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right. Every Sabbath, we have a theme to go with our time of class. And our theme this time is Yithro. Many know him as Yethro or Jethro in the English, but we know his in the Hebraic, it is Yitro. And so we're going to be talking about Yithro on this Yom. And we're going to be looking in Shema chapter 18, beginning at verse 1. And we're going to read 7 verses. Once again, very important that we adhere to that what is being said. Many times people look at the, at the Torah portions and they say, well, it's just talking about the children of Yasharah. Well, you have to understand, by talking about the children of Yasharah, we're also understanding about our own lives. We're finding out very significant traits and characteristics that are in us that our ancestors and forefathers possessed. Right. And those same traits and characteristics can be found in us. And so what better way to avoid certain things than by studying the ones that had it that had it before us, and we see the things they did. One of the things, and we're getting ready to read, but I just want to say this, is that one of the things that I found is that when you watch many movies really sometimes are great analogies for doing things and for not doing things. And many, I'm sure, have seen Creed already. I enjoyed it to the fullest. The first and the second one, it was very enlightening, and it was just one of those things that I enjoyed to see our people come up on top. Now we know it was a movie, but still, it wasn't a negative one, but it was along the lines of positive. A positive one. When you set your heart and mind to do something, that you can accomplish it.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
And one of the things that was important with even looking at that is that the thing that he learned was that he watched his opponent. He studied his opponent. He went and he rented tapes or got access to the fights, and he watched his opponent, and he watched how he massacred those people, how he would go in and break ribs and basically cripple them to basically be able to not just win but beat them. It's the difference between fighting somebody and winning and then beating the crap out of them.
Right.
And so he watched his opponent. He watched even how the style of his Abba. And so with that being said, as we read and as we study, we are watching and we are taking notes on how our ancestors and forefathers used to live and how their lifestyle can help us to better our lives. Because we can really begin to see what is it that made them stumble. Let me tell you something. The key thing and the root thing to our stumbling is unbelief. It's unbelief. When we don't believe,
Right.
Unbelief is the corporate and it is the root to all failure, and to walking against the instructions of the Abba. How so? Because when you stop believing in something, you stop investing time in it. When you stop believing in it, you stop investing and you stop spending that quality time in it. And so when that happens, what is the root of it? Unbelief. And then that what takes your attention now gets your belief, and now it takes up all of your time. So it's very important that we understand how we are to govern our lives and to make sure that we do not make the same mistakes that our ancestors and forefathers made. And the root of it, once again, is unbelief. So it's very important that we watch their lifestyle. Never, ever look at it as just being, well, we're just going back over the same thing and we know what they've done. Let me tell you something. Every time you read, you ought to be in a position that the Abba can trust you with something else that he can open up concerning a verse, a passage, or a chapter. If you've read it 3-5 times and you've got no new revelation off of it, that means somewhere you're still closed and he can't give to you what he desires to give to you. It's very important for us to understand that. So the more we read and the more we invest ourselves and our time in studying their lifestyle, studying the things where they erred, studying where they were able to get the victory. When we're able to study these things and we're able to look at it, then we can turn around and examine our own lives. Just as Creed examined his fighting style, he had to come up in order to fight that German. Wasn't he German? Russian. In order to find the same thing, but anywho, in order to fight him, he had to learn what he needed to do. He had to learn the areas that were weak. He had to learn, and he still ended up learning the hard way because he didn't listen to what he saw and to what he learned. He didn't take heed. Let us not be the same way. Read and examine the very things that was their downfall, and then we still find ourselves walking in it and falling, because we have not adhered to what he's trying to convey to us through their lifestyles and through the very actions of their lives. Let it not be said of us. And it is so. Yethro is our theme for this Sabbath rest. And we're going to begin at chapter 18. And let's read 7 verses, please.
And Yithro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that power had done for Moshe and for Yashua, his people, that Yahuwah had brought Yashua out of Mitzrayim. And Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eleazar, for he said, the power of my father was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of power. And he had said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law Yethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with her. Verse 7. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, very important. Yethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Yahuwah had done for Moshe and for Yasharal and his people, how that he brought Yasharal out of Mitzrayim. Now, isn't it amazing how word traveled? Once again, we have to look at and really begin to, this is my personal view, broaden our scope of what's taking place. Many times when we see, if you look at the movie or even when we read it, many times we only look at them, or I've looked at them as being in a secluded place, and we realize they dealt with different ones. But when you realize how open their lives were to all nations and to all people, you realize the importance of them following and trusting in the Abba, because everybody knew about what was going on with them. Just as they knew they were free, they knew they were servants and that they were slaves in Mitzrayim.
Right.
So when you began to look at that, and especially began to look at how they looked as a people being in slavery, how that could have been very embarrassing. You know, people watching you work like a dog, and they could come in and go, commuters coming in and out. You know, I'm sure them probably saying, well, hey, you know, how much will you give me for that one? Or he or she is not for sale. Right. You know, so your life is on, you know, up for bid. And so now you're out and everybody knows you're out. So everybody's like, wow, did you hear what happened? How they came across and how this and that took place. And so now I'm sure there were others that came, but they would send them back. Well, remember, she was not a part of the children of Yasharal, and that was not her assignment. I could go in and say many things about that, but we're going to leave it as it is. He sent her back, but now that they're in a position that Yithro says, now it's time for you to take your family back. It's time for you to get your wife and your 2 sons. Now that you're in this position of stability, right. It may not have looked stable to many of us. Okay, you're in the wilderness and you're going around a mountain. You're going to continue to go around this thing. Are you following me? Yes. But is that now they're stable enough to where he's saying, hey, let me bring them to you now. So he brings them to Moshe. Excuse me. Now, it talks about their relationship. Scripture repeats it to indicate that Yithro left pride in being, or felt pride in being known as Moshe's father-in-law. So you can imagine what the talk was with him. And people knowing that he was had some type of involvement with his life. But watch this. Though they had involvement, it was not for them to go and free them. Right. Can you imagine them seeing them and, you know, possibly, this is just me speaking, possibly saying, what can we do to lighten your load? What can we do to get you out of this? Well, there was nothing they could do because it wasn't theirs. It wasn't for them to do. How do we bring that over here into our time? There are times that we expect other people to bring us out of situations which is not for them to do so. Mm-hmm. This was created by the Abba to bring them deliverance in his time. And there are times that we're looking for people to do it, and it's not for them, it's for the Abba to do it. And when he does it, he gets all credit, and everybody will know that it was at his hand. That's right. Right. So there are times we cannot look for people. And I know that times you do look for people because, you know, I've done it. When you look for somebody to be there to say, hey, you know, such, if you could do this, or if you could just listen to me at this time, because, you know, I really want to say this, say that. There are times that it's not for them to be there, but it is for the Abba to be there, because there is something that he desires to impart into us, and that is belief in him above everything and all things and all people. That's right. That's very important. And it is so. It is so. Now he heard of the division of the Red Sea and the war with Amalek. So remember, now they went into war with Amalek and they defeated Amalek. And now, they're in this place. Now you have to understand, once again, as he brought them out, he was not going to allow them to fight one battle, but there was one war that was just that they could not dismiss.
Right.
On this path, there are some battles and some wars that you can kind of go around, but then there's some you're going to meet head on that you have to fight. And we have to trust that the Abba is going to give us the strength and the wisdom and the resolve to come out on top.
Right. Yes.
We have to understand that. And so it's very important for us to maintain that. All that Yahuwah had done in connection with the supply of manna and water, as well as the defeat of Amalek. With the plague of Mitzrayim, that Pharaoh had done no injury to Moshe, that Yahuwah had made him great in the eyes of the Mitzrayim and worked his wonders through him. So you have to understand, not only did they fear Abba Yahuwah, but they also feared his servant. Mm-hmm. It is not for us to try to put fear in people's heart, but if Abba Yahuwah wants someone to regard you and respect you, guess what? He knows just how to do it.
Right.
He knows how to get people's attention. We don't have to do anything but walk in obedience and do what he's given us to do.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
For Moshe and for Yasharal, Moshe is singled out for special mention to teach that he was equal in importance to all Yasharal. Because remember now, Moshe left and came back. So he was still equal and he was important to them, or just as important as they were. So it wasn't like he's just going to deliver them and he had no relevance and no importance. He had great importance. Are you following?
Yes.
To impress upon posterity the marvels Yahuwah had wrought for Moshe, in that he was able frequently to face Pharaoh without fear. That Yahuwah had made Moshe great in the eyes of Pharaoh and caused miracles to happen through his agency. Now, as you have to remember, at the end, at the last showdown, Moshe, when Pharaoh said, you will not come into my presence anymore unless it's for death. And Moshe told him he spoke well. Now, it was not Haran that spoke for him. This time, Moshe spoke it out of his own mouth. Why? Because at this time, he is at a level where he has seen. Now, watch this. This is why it's very important that we maintain our consistency and maintain that momentum in the Abba and not let anything stop us. Because it was at that point that I believe that he realized this is it. And I have no reason to fear you. And I have no reason to fear what is going to happen, because the Abba has everything and all things in control.
That's right.
So it is he who speaks to him, and they leave out. Now, once again, he did not fear Pharaoh, but in the beginning, he was a little skeptical about dealing with him. Mm-hmm. You have to understand, behind all that is just flesh and blood. Behind all the makeup and behind all the garb, it is just what? Flesh and blood.
Right.
And Abba Yahuwah says, fear not those that are just flesh and blood, but fear he who can destroy the body as well as the soul. So it's very important that we understand we don't have to fear man, because man, there's no such thing as no real Superman. You shoot anybody with a bullet, even those that have the Teflon armor, because even they now have bulletproof vet, the bullet, tracers, the bullets that go through the vest. Yeah, so they have bullets now that can even go through bulletproof vests. So you have to understand, for everybody, for when they make something like that, you got them on the opposite side. When we're gonna make some bullets that's gonna be able to go through. So it's just a game. It's just a game they play with one another. But the bottom line is, no matter what, man can only do what the Abba gives them permission to do, and what he does not, they cannot.
Right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now, excuse me, his people may be interpreted as the people of Yahuwah or of Moshe, brought Yasharal out of Mitzrayim, the supreme act of Yahuwah, and therefore specially recorded. Moshe's wife, the logical sequence of the narrative demands that Zipporah should be described as Yithro's daughter, but she is referred to as Moshe's Isha because it was a greater esteem for her to be known as such, her husband's family being more distinguished than her own. So you have to imagine now. Once again, they don't really say much about Zipporah, but one thing is for sure: Yithro understood who he was, and it was time for him to be united back with his what? With his Isha. So it's very important that we understand those things. After he had sent her away, Scripture nowhere explicitly records that Moshe sent his Isha back to Midian. The Midrash refers to it from 4:27. When Haran met Moshe and his family, he asked, "Who are those, or who are these?" Moshe replied, "This is my Isha, and these are my children. Where are you taking them?" Haran inquired. "To Mitzrayim," Moshe answered. Whereupon Aaron retorted, "We grieve for the unfortunate ones already there, and must you add to their number?" Forthwith, Moshe sent them back to Midian. When Yethro heard that Moshe had become the leader of his people, he decided that it was time for Zipporah and the children to rejoin him and share his destiny. The explanation that Moshe allowed her to return after the incident described in 4:24, or alternatively, Shalukim, is to be understood as marriage portion. And we can see that also in Malachi, Malachi 9:16. And it renders Yithro took after she had forwarded her dowry to Moshe. Somewhat it is similar in explanation, that Moshe sent her marriage portion in accordance with the practice of a bridegroom paying a dowry to the bride's Abba. So in other words, right here is making it be known that it is not explicitly known for sure if he had sent her away in the respect of her not being there with him during these times. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
But that this was a time that possibly the dowry or that which was to be given was sent. Because Haran asked, "Who are these, and are they to be with you?" Of course, if you have somebody that's with you and you are married to them, it is only right to be with them, regardless of how small, how large, how great, or how minute others might think the trial or what you're getting ready to engage in. Whenever you make that decision to say, "I do," it's I do, whether we in a car, box, shoebox, whatever, it's I do. We're going to be there together. Are you following me?
Yes.
And so it's very important. And one of the things that I have learned through being married 34 years and being with my Ish 33, and I think this will be 35 years we'll be together, and 35 years married, yeah, and 34 years together, is that we've never, ever been apart. The longest we've ever been apart is 2 weeks when he took a job to go and be a hazardous waste handler. And he had to go to school for 2 weeks. But out of that time, we've never been apart for any long, significant time. And I think when I went to, when I was in Christianity, to Juanita Bynum's threshing floor conference, and I was going for what, 4 days? Just 4 days, and everybody thought it was the longest time in the world. But that's the only amount of time that we have ever been apart. And but we've always been together. Our saying is, "Come hell, come high water." You know, we have always stood together, and so we've never been apart, regardless of what the situation has ever been. And so I believe that this was the same thing. But once again, when you're looking at what's taking place, and because she's not mentioned, you know, until it says Yithro is bringing her back. Now, you have to understand also some commentaries and some historians are saying that this was basically set into this setting, but this is not when it took place, that she actually was there with him. But this was one of the chapters or this scenario was basically set in this position. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
To make it like she was coming after this had happened, which in actuality she probably was already there. And it is so. All right. Excuse me. And her 2 sons. Although the birth of the sons did not take place at this time, the mention of them in verse 2 affords an opportunity to explain the name of the younger, which had not been previously recorded. While doing so, Scripture repeats the explanation of Gershom's name. 2 and 22. So once again, when you look at their names and they're older, and then we also know that his oldest son had to be circumcised. And she is the one who had to do it. So you have to know she had to know what she was doing. Because she would have messed the old boy up if she didn't know what she was doing, because Moshe was actually being killed by Yahuwah. He was wrestling with him and about to kill him. Now you have to understand, if he wanted to kill him, he could have killed him. But it was a scenario to where he was about to take some theologians, because of the custom. She basically, according to some theologians, did not want to have them circumcised because it was not their tradition.
Right.
But Yahuwah had already told Moshe to circumcise them. And because, according, once again, to many theologians, because he listened to the voice of his Isha, that this is why Yahuwah attacked Moshe, because he adhered to the wife. And this is why the wife was able to circumcise him. Now, mind you, she knew exactly what to do. She didn't go running trying to, grab him. She knew exactly what was the reason for him about to die. And she circumcised him on the spot. And like I say, you have to understand, you have to be precise, and you have to know what you're doing, because if not, she could have messed him up for life. But she already knew the reason why he was in trouble because of that. I want to say this right here. I know who I am. I know that I am a prophetess of Abba Yahuwah, and I know that I am a leader. But I also know that you have to be careful in advice, even when it comes to your ish. You can't advise him to do the opposite of what the Abba has told him to do. If he's given him something to do, to advise him to go against that is going against the Abba. Not just somebody. I've seen it prove positive. And then when they move, tragedy happened, and then lost their belief in Abba Yahuwah. Now he's walking in command. And he's calling himself, a higher power. And he's saying you can't be praying to, a power or that which is not real. And you're praying to this, that, and the other. And I'm like, bro, you're letting hurt speak through you, because you're not going to make me believe that at one time you were a real historian. See, because when you are hurt, that hurt opens the door to other things. And when hurt becomes the gatekeeper, it opens the door for everything else to come in. And he was wounded. And his Isha is the one who began to feed him all these things. You have to understand now. People want to say women that have makeup or Jezebels. No, but you better understand the true characteristic of a Jezebel. Right. Jezebel was a prophetess, and according to theologians, she was a beautiful prophetess, and she was the wife of Ahab, who was the king of Yehuda. He was the king. And so you have to understand, she was not just a high priestess or prophetess, but she was one who made things happen. Now, she was very unorthodox, but she did what she had to do to make things happen. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
She knew how to be crafty, and the things she did against the people of Abba Yahuwah. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So it ain't got nothing to do with makeup, because you got women don't wear makeup, but they still just as crafty, and they can do whatever they want to do. So it ain't got nothing to do with that. It is about the heart and the motivation, or the motive of an individual. And so here it is, we see these things, but you have to be careful. And because of this, it almost cost Moshe his life. But Yahuwah wasn't going to kill him. Because if he's going to kill him, he'd have killed him before he left, knowing that he was on the road and that boy had not been circumcised. But this was a whipping. You get a whipping and they ain't going to beat you to death, but I'm going to whip you enough to make you know, don't do that anymore. So this is important for us to understand. But we see these things. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right. Verse 4, deliver me from the sword of Pharaoh. We could see it in 2 and 15. The interpretation based on the Midrash. Remember, Midrash is when you hear me say these things and I stop, it is very important that we understand what the symbolism, and when it comes from the Midrash, that it comes from the Jewish perspective. Because the Midrash is the interpretations or the supplements of the writings. Interpretations, are y'all following me? Yes. Which comes from the Jewish background. And this is why you have many times when we say the Mishnah, the Midrash. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
They're very important for us to understand that. Now, once again, this is what their interpretation of it was. That when Eleazar was born, Pharaoh died, and Moshe felt safe from the king's sword. This is why, once again, there are many scenarios as to why she went back, as to why she was basically went back to be with her Abba, because it could have been unsafe conditions. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because we know that the oldest son was born, and so forth. And so now it's just showing us that this is the reason why now is because Pharaoh is dead, and now he can basically tend to his family. All right. All right. Verse 5. Yithro, with his sons and his Isha, in accordance with the law of etiquette, Yithro approached Moshe first, then his sons, and lastly his Isha. Into the wilderness. The words are superfluous, as we know, but that Yashraelites were in the wilderness. But the fact is repeated as a compliment to Yithro that he left the comfort of his home for the hardships of the desert to learn the Torah. Now, once again, let's look at this. When people look at being in the wilderness as it being hardship, we can look at the wilderness experience does not become the hardship of a thing until what? Until they are disobedient. Until they refuse to go into the land. Now, just because you live off the grid doesn't mean that you're living, a life that's hard, that you're being, like we like to say, savages. Or that, you have to pull up and find a tree to use the bathroom, or, you have to do those types of things. No, or you have to go to the stream and bathe. No, we have facilities for these things to be done. Are you following me?
Yes.
But to look at the true definition, all they were doing was living in a what we would look at as off grid. Now, somebody would say, well, they didn't have solar panels, they didn't have all those things. No, they didn't. But they were not in a set up community that basically was stable, or a set community to where they were not moving all over the place.
Right.
So it wasn't like they were going to be uncomfortable to the point where, you know what, this is really a struggle with burning up out here, man. We about to die. We have no air conditioners. You have to understand, some deserts do have trees.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And at night it can get below zero in the desert, and it can be 120, 130 during the daytime. Yes, again, as crazy as it sounds, it can get just that cold and it can get just that hot in the desert. So he's not going to bring them. Are you following me?
Yes.
A cloud of smoke by day and a pillar of fire by night to keep them warm, then to keep them cool, to throw them in the desert to burn them up. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So once again, we have to understand Yahuwah kept the thermostat just right, because he had put them in that position for a reason. Excuse me. He said, Yithro's messenger, whom he sent in advance of the messenger contained in the letter sent by Yithro to Moshe. In other words, he's saying he said because of the communication, or because there's a letter that has been sent to Moshe, alluding to what is going to take place. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
I, thy father-in-law, Yithro, sent this message in advance, not to take Moshe by surprise. The messenger implied, if you do not come to meet me for my sake, come for the sake of your Isha, and if not for her sake, then for the sake of your children. Scripture teaches a rule of conduct that when one is about to visit friends, he should not take them by surprise, but announce his coming beforehand. You don't just hop over people. Oh, shoot, give me about an hour. I ain't ready yet. Are you following? But, in our time and day now, most of the time, say, oh, come on at any time. Or I'm like, no, let me know when you come, please. Please let me know when you're coming. But the writings tell us always make your announcement. Hey, we would like to come by. Is it okay if we come by? Now, nowadays, because we do have children that are young adults that are outside of the home, we always tell them, you're in the area. Come on, you don't have to make an appointment. We're the same people when you left here. We're the same people when you come back. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Either we're gonna be comfortable and relaxing, or we're gonna be dressed because we have somewhere to go. Are you following me?
Yes.
So we kind of handle it that way. But the scripture says to make your presence or your desire known in advance so you don't catch anybody by surprise. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important. And it is so.
Yes.
All right, verse 7. Moshe went out to meet, to show respect to his father-in-law. Likewise, Haran and his sons, Nadab and Abu, went out to meet him, and their example must have been followed by many others. In other words, you respect your what? Elders. Moshe's actions evidence the nobility of his character. Though he held such eminent rank, he did not deem it benefit his dignity to go out to meet the man who had befriended him in his time of distress. It is only stated that Moshe went out to meet Yethro and not his Isha and sons. Now, once again, it's very important that we understand just because it's not stated doesn't mean that it wasn't done. It's a package deal. You know, there are comments, you mean you go just dismiss her being there and you hadn't seen her? So once again, it's very important that when we look at things that we allow the Abba to speak to our hearts concerning those things. Are you following me? Because we definitely don't want people to get, it misconstrued. Now, let's look at it in this manner. Your Isha goes away, and then, someone of importance comes, and you're with her, and then you just act like she's not there. That can cause some mixed emotions. You're gonna overlook me, and we hadn't seen each other in months. Okay, are y'all following me? Just being real. You want to be careful with that. All right, bow down. The context does not make it clear who bowed to whom, but it may be inferred from the word ish that Moshe bowed down to Yithro, for elsewhere he is referred to as the man, Moshe, Bemidbar 12:3. Into the tent, that is the tent recognized as reserved for Moshe. So he had a special place where they went, and we would assume by him going to meet him that he would bow before him first, because he is the one who made the initiative. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important to understand that regardless of how sometimes people may act, old people, just because they're old doesn't mean that they can't be old fools. You still have to respect them. Does that mean we let them walk all over us? Absolutely not. But it does mean that we give respect. Now, with that being said, you have to understand, you have to earn respect. Respect is given when it is earned.
Right.
You're going to dog me out, and I'm trying to respect you. I'm not going to disrespect you, but I'm not going to let you disrespect me either.
Right.
So it's very important that we understand that. No, that's not being double-minded. That's just using being real. And it is so.
It is so.
All right, let's read verse 8 to 15. And it is so.
Verse 8. Moshe told his Abba-in-law about everything Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and the Mitzrayim, for Yahshua's sake, and about all the hardships they had met along the way and how Yahuwah had saved them. Yitro was delighted to hear about all the great things Yahuwah had done for Yahshua in rescuing them from the hand of the Mitzri. He said, "Praise be to Yahuwah, who rescued you from the hand of the Mitzri and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Mitzrayim. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all other power, for he did this to those who had treated Yahshua arrogantly." Then Yitro, Moshe's Abba-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to Yahuwah. And Aharon came with all the elders of Yahshua to eat bread with Moshe's Abba-in-law in the presence of Yahuwah. The next day Moshe took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his Abba-in-law saw all that Moshe was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge? All these people stand around you from morning till evening." Moshe answered him, saying, "Because the people come to see Yahuwah's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of Yahuwah's decrees and commands." And it is so.
Go ahead and read verse 16 too, because it goes with it.
I actually just missed 16.
Oh, you did?
17.
Okay, it's okay. It's worded in here differently. Okay. So that. All right, let's look at verse 8. Now, many, once again, to allude to Yethro, many have believed that Yethro was a idol worshiping priest, and many believe because he was a Midianite that he did not serve the Abba, and that he was basically a idol worshiper. And then there are those that allude that Yethro was actually a servant of the Abba, and he knew about the Abba. And this is how they were able to connect and build family. And so when it is alluded to in verse 8, it is many would believe that Yethro was inquiring because he didn't know anything about the Torah. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so when we read it, it says Moshe spoke alluringly to attract Yethro to the Torah. All that Yahuwah had done, that he had exacted punishment from the Mitzrayim for the wrong they had done to Yashua. Now you have to understand, according to chapter 18, verse 1, he had heard about it. And this is what made him come and bring Moshe's family to him. Because he had heard what? He had heard about all the great things that Abba Yahuwah had done for who? Moshe and the children of Yashua. Mm-hmm. He didn't send them back by way of messenger. He went himself. Right. Is it possible that he went because he wanted to see if it really had been done, or he went because he wanted to celebrate with them the victory that they had won? Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now, it says, all the travel, the experience at the Reed Sea and war against Amalek, and also their hunger and thirst in the wilderness. Yahuwah delivered them. Thereby, he displayed his special providence toward Joshua. Yithro rejoiced. That is the literal interpretation. Now, listen at this. The Midrash connects the verb weikad with the noun hikadem, prickles. Yithro's flesh prickled with horror in his grief over the fate of Mitzrayim. Being a Gentile, he felt sympathy with the Gentiles. Yethro did not rejoice over the destruction of the Mitzrayim, but over the deliverance of Yasharal. So once again, it's important that we look and see how it is being spelled out to us. Yithro rejoiced because what? He knew that Yahuwah was the power of all the rest of these powers and deities. They're not going to rejoice because they're going to look at, wait, you destroyed what I'm worshiping. Right. You destroyed, part of what I have believed, my belief system. So you have to understand, once again, and this comes from the Midrash, but it says that is the literal interpretation, that he rejoiced. So that means he had an understanding and he was conscious of why he was rejoicing. Because he understood that Yahuwah was the power of Yasharal and that he brought them forth out of their dilemma. All the greatness, and giving them manna, the whale, and the Torah, in that he had delivered them. The greatest of all the boons Yahuwah had conferred upon Yasharal was their deliverance from Mitzrayim, a land from which no slave could ordinarily escape, as it was shut in on all sides. But on this occasion, a whole people had escaped. Now, once again, remember, they didn't escape. They did what? They left away. Mm-hmm. Remember, in the beginning, as we read before, that the children of Yashua were armed. They had weapons of war. And when they left during the morning time, and they walked out. They didn't run and they didn't leave like skittish slaves or people that were slaves. Mm-hmm. They left understanding, we're free. We're walking out of here. There was no running. There was no trampling. They walked out. Are you hearing me? So this interpretation is one that we can kind of put on a sidebar and understand to a degree. You have to understand. Many theologians have said that Yitro was melanated. Are you hearing me? He was melanated. You know who also was a descendant of him? Yael was a descendant of Yethro. So this is why they were living close. That's why they were living close to the camp or around the children of Yasharal. Because these were what many theologians have said were the in-laws of Moshe. So there's a connection there. So you have to kind of wonder, why would they say that he was rejoicing over the Gentiles? Once again, you have to understand from the perspective and from the literature that at times we get. I've learned this: eat the meat, spit the bones out. But you never give children you never give children buffalo fish. Anybody understands what type of fish buffalo is? You understand that it has really tiny shard bones in it. And because the meat is real soft and you get to eating it and you forget that it has some tiny bones in it, and you go to swallow and you get that thing stuck in your throat. Because I've had a bone stuck in my throat before as a little girl, and you try to induce vomiting, swallowing bread, because you're trying to get that thing dislodged from in your throat. And you talking about cause excruciating pain. It's very painful. So when we allude to certain things, or when I say certain things, this is why it is important that any type of literature we get and any type of reading we get, first and foremost, pray about it. Seek the face of the Abba. Listen for the Ruach HaKodesh. And then ask others. There is no crime in inquiring about literature that you read. Because some stuff we read, we're thinking, man, that sounds right. But just because something sounds right doesn't mean it's right. You have to go in deeper to see why they would even say a thing. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important to understand that. All right. Verse 10, delivered you. That is Moshe and Haran, who have been sent to Mitzrayim to interview Pharaoh and were consequently in danger. Mitzrayim, Pharaoh, a cruel people and a cruel king. The hand, as the Targum renders the domination, that is hard bondage. Now, once again, when you hear words like Targum, Midrash, and the Mishnah, you have to understand all of these come from the Talmud, and they come from the rabbis and from the sages. This is their interpretation or sidebar of the writing. Someone will say, well, why do you use it? Because some of the information is valid. And then there's some information that is very important to point out when there is a discrepancy or a discrepancy can be found in it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important to understand that. We don't throw the baby out with the bath water. We just get the bath water out. Now I know, now more than ever am I convinced of Yahuwah's greatness over all other powers. All powers. The word all implies that Yethro had a complete knowledge of all idols, having worshipped them each in turn. Now I am aware that idols have no power to avenge the wrong done to their worshippers. They dealt proudly against them. The Mitzrayim met their fate by the means they planned to destroy Yasharo, which means water, or visualizing the water. The Mitzrayim were punished because, as the instruments of Yahuwah, they unduly exceeded the part when oppressing Yasharo. In every instance where the Mitzrayim dealt arrogantly with Yasharo, Yahuwah humiliated them. So once again, you have to understand, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. They humiliated the children of Yasharo, so they in turn were humiliated. Because I'm sure that when people went back through there and they was like, man, y'all look like y'all come through a series of stuff. Because people, you can imagine, people were probably still going. And then when they came out of the time of black darkness and where you could feel, and once again, you have to remember, nobody could do anything. So that means you had to do all your business in the bed. That means your children, that means you couldn't eat, you couldn't wash, you couldn't bathe, everything. And so when the lights did come back on, it was a stinky mess. Now watch this. Were there people still coming in, checking it out to see what was going on? Now you have to understand that's embarrassing. People coming in, you know, trying to find clean clothes and you trying to wash up. Everybody trying to wash because everybody then did what? Had, you know, then messed on themselves and urinated on themselves. You can't eat. And you're laying right next to the person if you're laying together. So you both, and you know, it's just a mess because you're both in the same stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the humiliation and people coming and then people saying, you don't want to go there because there's something drastically going on there. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go there. But then you have those that still go. Are you following me? Yeah. So you can imagine that was taking place. And it is so. Mm-hmm. Yitro took a burnt offering as a token of his acceptance of the divine sovereignty, and he embraced the belief of Yasharo. Now, once again, one thing that is really important with this, he came and he offered a burnt offering to them, and he sacrificed. Are y'all following me? Yeah. This is when it is done. This is the first time that it's done. Because remember, they just come out of what? Mitzrayim. So he's the one really that came and established that right then and there, because nobody else had done it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Because they had just come out, they fought with Amalek, they had just got to this place. So here it is. He says, we're going to offer up to the Abba. Now, and it says, and Haran came to participate in the meal in esteem of Yethro. Moshe is not mentioned because the gathering took place in his tent, or for the reason that he was standing by and waiting upon the guests. But he was there, so it wasn't like he was not there. Before Yahuwah, that is before the altar on which the sacrifices were offered. Moshe's tent was situated on the east side of the tent of meeting. On the morrow, after Moshe's descent from Mount Sinai, and section is not in the chronological place of Yithro's arrival, on the yom on which he saw Moshe engaged in administering justice from morning to evening. Moshe sat to judge, as was his regular daily practice. Even if this happened before the revelation, he would have to adjudicate civil disputes, The people stood before Moshe as before a king. They waited until the finished transacting public business and discussing matters with the leading men. From the morning until the evening, he was continuously occupied in dispensing justice single-handed. This teaches that when a judge gives a just decision, although he spends 1 hour on the case, scripture imputes it to him as though he had occupied himself the whole yom with it. So that means you got 600,000 men plus women plus children. You spend an hour on just 1 or 2 people. That's exhaustion. When you talk with people and you're taking in information concerning their situations, their civil matters, their spiritual matters, you're dealing with disputes, you're dealing with different things. That can be very overbearing on one person, that many people. And they weren't just standing up there quiet. Boy, he sure is taking on, man. You know how people do when you, especially when you in line. Man, dang, you mean tell me he answered your question? Move along. Other people have questions.
Right.
Well, come back, because now you taking up too much time. You taking up everybody else's time. We understand you have issues, but we have issues too. Keep the line moving. Come back tomorrow. We want to hear our matters being heard. And so you have to understand the pressure that was applied.
Right.
The pressure that was upon him to do these things, but he had a willingness and he wanted to be sure. Now you have to understand it takes about an hour when you're dealing with people. That's why when I'm dealing with people and people want to talk to me, I don't rush them, because you got to understand there's 3 phases of when you're dealing with people, and especially when you're talking with them. No, I'm not a counselor, but I do hear from Abba Yahuwah. You're talking to people. The first one is you got to get past them wanting to address everything. Then the emotional part. And then once they get through the emotions, then the third part, they get through that what I look at as being remorseful and really kind of perplexed and really kind of confused. Then by the time you get through those 3 phases, they're ready to start talking. But you got to give them the opportunity, because if you don't give people the opportunity to express themselves, right. Are you following me?
Yes.
And get those 3 things out of the way, maybe not in that order, because they'll come at you sometime emotionally first, then angry, and then after that, now they're ready to just vent. By the time they finish with each one of those phases, by the time you get through that, now they're ready to talk. But if you just get them in there and you're trying to rush them on, you ain't gonna get to the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. So an hour gives you that amount of time. How? Why? I know, because I've been there. When you need to talk to people and they put you on, well, you got 5 minutes. Well, I don't even need to talk to you, because 5 minutes, that I'm not going to waste your time or mine, because I need to be able to get out this what's in me, so that we can get to the root of the matter. Right. So it takes at least an hour. And so to judge, he had to take an hour. And he had to listen to everybody's, gripe, complaint, and some stuff probably was minute. My cow went and pooped in their yard. Well, just get it out. Well, no, they did it, and they should be responsible for it. Okay, we'll get it up. Well, it was an accident. You know some of the trivial things that we can hear. Are you following me?
Yes.
But he had to deal with it all. For morning and evening. Now, verse 14, all that he did to the people, and keeping them waiting from morning unto evening. What is this thing that thou doest? Yethro reprimanded Moshe for his disrespect to the people and letting them remain standing while he was sitting. This retorts to the proper for claimants to stand and the judge to sit. He adds that Yitro criticized Moshe for transacting alone all public business. The consequence was that they who desired to consult him were kept waiting, all young men. Now, you have to understand that does make sense, because when you're dealing with different levels of information and different levels of situations, you dealing with marital issues. You don't want to put everybody on the what's the problem, because it could be something really personal. Then when you're dealing with business and you're talking about different things, certain things should be dealt and handled in certain manners. This is why when you're dealing with people, it should always be in the in a place of privacy, especially when it's dealing with marital issues, if it's dealing with business, because you want to keep those things in private.
Right.
Are you following? Unless you're doing something and it's open and people are talking about testimonies and all that great stuff and so forth, and everybody's on the same level. But you have to understand, when you're trying to do everything at one time, that's like trying to tie shoes, cook dinner, and you doing it all at one time. You're gonna have folks frustrated. Because my situation is a little more important than theirs. Like I said, they talking about poop on the grass. I'm talking about how am I going to do this, that, and the other, and this is what we've been given. We've been given this amount of gold and silver and these clothes. How do we do this? What do we do? How are we going to build this, that, and the other? So you have to understand, there's a lot of things that we could assume that was taking place, and it is so.
Yes.
All right. Excuse me. Verse 15. To inquire of Yahuwah, Moshe informed Yethro that he had to discharge 2 functions. The people came to him to seek instruction in Yahuwah's will. I make them know the statutes of Yahuwah, and when they have a matter. Moshe told Yethro that he alone had the right to approach Yahuwah and inquire of him. He was also expected to pray to Yahuwah to heal any ailments that befell the people, as well as judge their causes and instruct them in Yahuwah's law. So now you start looking at, you got to pray for people. My hip hurt, and if you've ever seen where people have inquired of prayer, you pray for people, you anoint them, and you pray, and you touch them, and you pray, and you say, from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet, well, my hip hurt. Okay, but we covered that area. When we say touch, are you following me? So these are some of once again, some of the matters that you have to understand when you deal with people. As I said before, when we look at our ancestors and forefathers, you can really see some of the characteristics displayed in the people even here and now. And it is so. All is well. All right. A matter, that is a dispute, and so forth, or complaints that come. It's not great in my eyes. Wilt surely wear away, collapse like a withered leaf which falls off the tree. Your voice cannot be heard above the clamor of the people, connecting neighbor with the root balal to confuse or mix. So it's important that we understand, as I said before, when you have people talking and you have this many people, if you've ever been in a cathedral, if you've ever been to a ballet, which we enjoy seeing, going and watching. But if you've ever been to a ballet or a concert, before it starts, people be talking, you can't hardly hear yourself think.
Right.
Now, can you imagine that many people talking and then discussing their matters with other people? Because girl, such, well, man, such, blah, 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 blah. And they're going, and he's trying to talk to them, and it just probably sounds like a whole lot of confusion going on. So these are different things that he's saying, look, we got to bring some order to this. Are y'all following?
Yes.
We have to bring some order to this. All right, let's pick up at verse 18.
Verse 18. How many verses?
7.
Verse 18 reads, "You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may Yahuwah be with you. You must be the people's representative before Yahuwah and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the decrees and laws, and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear Yahuwah, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens.
Mhm.
Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. In simple cases, they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this and Yahuwah so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied." Moshe listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said, and it is so.
And it is so. Very important, as I alluded to, will surely wear away, collapse like a withered leaf which falls off a tree. And he's telling him, he said, your voice cannot be heard because of these things. He said, but it's important that you understand, if you are wear out, then how can you help anybody? You can't. You know, so we have to maintain, our strength. And whether it's 2 people, 3 people, you still have to be mentally, physically, socially fit. And above all, you have to be spiritually fit.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Very important. All right. Now he says, both thou, the word both includes Haran, Hur, and the 70 elders. Too heavy for thee, beyond thy strength and physical endurance. That's one of the things that was very important. Yahuwah will be with thee. I will give you advice, said Yethro, and consult Yahuwah whether it should be adopted. Yahuwah will help you, and you will be relieved of the strain. Now, once again, if this man was not, or did not have a understanding of who the Abba was, how could he have given him such wonderful advice for such a people?
Right.
Once again, very important to understand. How could he have given him that type of advice so that it would be a structured, healthy structure and a healthy foundation, so that he wouldn't end up dying, trying to meet the needs of all these people.
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. And so, like I said, trying to be a one-hit wonder, that's not what it's about. Are you following me?
Yes.
But one of the things is he set a criteria and he set a prerequisite. He just didn't tell them to go grab anybody. They had to meet the character or the characteristics in order to follow or to receive this position. You give it to the wrong person, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna have problems. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Now he says, excuse me, be thou for the people before Yahuwah. Be the intermediary between Yahuwah and the people. Be their intercessor before Yahuwah. And this is very important, because before we can give advice, we have to first be a mediator. Now understand what I'm about to say. And an intercessor. I've got to be able to pray for you. I've got to be able to go and ask the Abba concerning certain things in your life in order to minister to you correctly. I have to be able to do that, because if not, then I'm just going to be basing it off of what? Surface stuff. Just because a person is acting up and, wow, they so mean and surly. Why? Get to the root of it.
Right.
You can't just prescribe, prescribe a medication or prescribe something for a person unless you understand the root cause. Because if you just deal with it on the surface, you're gonna miss so much stuff. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Getting into herbs has taught me many of things, because there are many things that look like the same thing. Your body gives off certain signals that there's a problem. but there are things that look exactly like one problem, but it's connected to another problem.
Right.
And so in order to treat not the symptom, but the problem, you have to do you have to go through and dig really, really deep. And it's the truth. You have to go in, you have to dig. And then I found by the time you finish, you're going to be then fixed up about 6, 7, 8 herbs. Seriously. In order to deal with whatever the issue is in your body. So once again, and then you have to give it, and I can speak of my own of self. It's according to years of bad eating and really stress and really not resting properly. And the body gets to a point, just as Yethro was telling Moshe, if you don't do these things right, you're going to pay for it in the end.
Right.
But these things can be reversed, but you got to know what you're looking for. And then you got to know to make sure that it is not something that is equated to another thing, but it looks just like this. So you don't want to diagnose the symptoms. You want to get to the problem.
Right.
And when you get to the problem, then you're able to really pull out and say, okay, these are like building blocks. Okay, move this out the way, move that out the way, put this in here to build this back up. You're building cells again. You're building tissue again. You are not recycling, but you are cleansing. I heard a brother say some months ago, and when I heard him say it really just, I don't want to say blew my mind, but it really got me intrigued about when he said your pancreas is renewed every 7 years. I think he said every 7 years. Yeah. And then he said some other things. And then he said there are other parts of the body that renew themselves. Your blood is recycled. Your blood is just like gas going through a car. Only thing is it doesn't run out. But he said the problem comes in is what is being recycled. Is it clean or is it contaminated? Are the cells healthy or are they unhealthy? So if you're reproducing unhealthy cells, you're going to continue to get unhealthy results. Mm-hmm. So we got to go in and start, you become a chemist when you become an herbalist. You become truthfully all of these things because you have to be able to go in and look at every symptom and be able to find its root cause.
Right.
Its root cause. And one thing I have learned is that the digestive system, that is the number one thing. It is the motor of your life. And if your digestive system is not functioning right, then it'll cause your whole body to be off. Mm-hmm. It's like a motor. That thing will be backfired, sputtering and putting and pooting and can on. Your digestive system gets off, you'll be sputtering and pooting and can on. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Because you have to get it lined back up, and you have to go in and, like I say, don't treat the symptoms, but deal with the problem. And so, once again, looking at this is what he's telling him. Now, and you have to be able, once again, to pray for people. And many times, it goes beyond just giving people information. You have to also pray with them and pray for them.
Right. That's
very important. Very important. He said, bring thou the causes unto Abba Yahuwah. If they be too difficult to decide or you are in doubt. He said, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And a great leader will tell you, okay, wait a minute, I got to go pray about that one. I'm not going to give you an answer off the top of my head or just out of my heart. Let me spend some quality time with the Abba. And whatever he tells me, I will tell you. And if he says nothing, we're going to wait till he says, but we will continue to maintain it. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. And it is so.
It is so.
Shall teach them the positive and negative precepts. To instruct the people in Yahuwah's laws was Moshe's responsibility, which he could not delegate to others. But the judging of civil disputes might be done by judges appointed for the purpose. Now, once again, that's important to understand too, because many times people try to appoint something that they can't appoint. Moshe could not tell them to teach because it wasn't for them to teach, but he could tell them to judge what? Civil matters. Civil matters are those things that deal with the community, disputes. But when it came down to the Torah, that was his function. Are you following me?
Yes.
he was a teacher. And many times, as moras and mores, you find that many times people like to have a whole lot of people. Now, understand what I'm about to say, because I don't want nobody coming, saying nothing nasty to me, saying, well, you trying to say can't nobody else teach. I'm not saying that. But if Abba Yahuwah has given you that task, you better make sure you're doing it and not try to push it off on somebody else. On somebody else. But you better make sure you are doing it. And anything else that needs to be dealt with, then you delegate authority. That is what we can do. You say, okay, do the bulletin board for me. Put these things up for me. I need you to get this out. I need to get that. Those are things that can be done. But when it comes time to doing certain things, especially when it comes along the lines of teaching and imparting, that's where I have to go in and know when he's saying something and telling me what I need to do. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's very important for us to understand that, because you put the wrong person up there, you're going to have people teaching all kind of stuff.
Right.
It's the truth. This is why you're finding more of those that are, they're trying to mimic the camps, and you're finding a group of people get together and then everybody wants to be a teacher, and then you're finding many of them believe in reincarnation. You're finding that many of them don't believe in the Mashiach. So you get this mishposh of stuff going on, and then you start thinking, I don't believe that way, so we can't have you up here teaching, this, because that's not what that's not what I believe, and that's not what he's giving me. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
So this is important that we understand that everybody's not qualified to teach, and there are some that need to be teaching but don't teach. Thou shalt provide. From the root of this verb, or the root, of the verb, it is derived koshesh, seer. Moshe was to select the men as directed by his prophetic ruach. Once again, he had to discern if they were qualified to walk in that position. Just because a person wears the garb and a person looks like they can are qualified, doesn't mean they're qualified. You have to test that person's ruach. You have to really see through the eyes of the ruach if this person is qualified and meets the criteria. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand. If not, you will have a whole lot of stuff, like I say. Able men, the phrase can signify men of wealth who will dispense justice without esteem or fear. Men of great physical strength, able to stand the strain of their office. Men with powers of leadership. That was to be the one overriding characteristic. But in addition, they must possess the virtues enumerated. You have to, first of all, once again, have a desire to walk in truth and obey Abba Yahuwah, even if it is something you yourself may not completely understand. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. Hating unjust gain. That is bribes. They do not have their property to such an extent that they only pay what is due from them under a judgment of the court. As the rabbis remark, a man is not fit to act as a judge from whom payment can only be obtained by a lawsuit. Now, once again, this is where the rabbis start putting in their remarks. Are you following me?
Yes.
Very important. Now, they must be popularly known to have this qualification. Men who hate oppression and are eager to secure the rights of the oppressed. There's a situation going on and there's a problem, and you're saying, hey, no, we're going to deal with this. You are not going to do that.
Right.
And then when you see a situation where a person can be bribed, you have to understand, it doesn't matter to me. If someone baruch my life, that's great. But if you're in error, I'm going to tell you. Right. And if it means that our friendship dissolves or our relationship dissolves, so be it. But I'm going to tell you the naked truth, because I'm not going to lose out with the Abba. There is nothing that important to me to where I'm going to sell out and lose what he's given unto me.
Right. There's
no amount of money. This is very important for us to understand. And truthfully, if you really a humble person, you wouldn't even try to bribe them or try to buy them out off.
Right.
I'm a stickler for that. I'm going to tell you, I'll let you talk all night long. And the moment I can interject it, you better understand, I'm going to interject it. I'm going to do just like y'all ever heard about them little squids. Them ones that with the harpoons. They don't, I forgot what them little, the squids, I forgot what they're called. But they're, they are off are they off the coast? But when you swim with them, they're very small, and sometimes you won't even know they're there till they sting you. You could be right there. You will never know because they're small enough to get close enough to you while you splashing and playing. And the moment you be still, boom, you be like, "What the world?" And you don't see them because when we would go to the beach and we would go swim and play in the water, as long as you splashing and making a whole lot, they won't get to you. But the moment you like, okay, I'm gonna sit a moment, boy, them things will tear you up. It'll be just like that. Let you splash around, let you talk, let you say, and the moment I get an opening, I'm gonna hit you. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Because this is what it's about. It's about telling the truth. Whether people adhere, whether people like you afterwards, whether people don't bother with you anymore, it is about him being able to trust you. And I don't ever want the Abba to not be able to trust me. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important. Now, such as fear, and do not fear their fellow men, fear Abba Yahuwah. Men of truth, men who inspire confidence and whose word is relied upon. Your word is your bond. If you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Right.
And you're reliable. You know, well, I thought you was going to do. Oh, I forgot. Well, you said you was going to do it. Well, it slipped my mind. You're not reliable. Are you following me?
Yes.
You're not reliable. I make it a point. If I say I'm going to do something, even if I sit there and be like, I sure don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it because my word is my bond. Are you following me? Because I don't want people to think I'm a liar. Because watch this. If you say you're going to do it and then you don't do it, you become a liar. So it's important that we understand that. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
All right. Hating unjust gain. That is bribes. They do not have their property in such as I read, an extent that they only pay what is due from them under a judgment of the court. In other words, they don't just pay that because the court says this is what you owe. They do because you know what? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This was my fault. This is what happened, and this is what is due. I owe you this. Well, the court's gonna make you pay it. Well, I don't feel I should have to pay that. You're gonna pay it, or you're gonna lose everything else. Are y'all following?
Yes.
So it's important. All right, rulers of thousands. These numbered 600, since 600,000 men came out of Mitzrayim, and the other officers in the same proportion. The meaning is that they are to be appointed as rulers who possess 1,000 slaves or paid servants, and their actual number was 12. Now listen at this again. Now, rulers of thousands. These numbered 600,000 men came out of Mitzrayim, and the other officers in the same proportion. Now it says the meaning is that they are to be appointed as rulers who possess 1,000 slaves or paid servants, and their actual number was 12. Now you hear that? Once again, they were not slaves.
Right.
They were free. And that's not the mentality to have. He said that you were to what? Judge them. Just because you judge a person does not mean now you put them in a place of bondage. That's not that, or you make them slaves, or even indentured servants. That's not what we're supposed to do. Are you hearing me? At all seasons, officers will then be available to the people at any time. Every great matter unto thee, if it prove too hard for you, bring it before Yahuwah. Make it easier, to the end that it will lighten the burden from off you. Now, once again, if he did not believe that the Abba was capable, he would not have told Moshe. If you notice, he kept telling Moshe, when you can't do it, take it to the Abba. Go to him in prayer. Are you following me?
Yes.
It's very important for us to understand that, because the only way these things are going to be done is that we pray.
That's right.
And we have a desire for it. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now he says here, 23, Yahuwah commanded thee so. If Yahuwah sanctions this arrangement, in other words, he's saying, now I'm giving it to you, but you must pray to make sure that this is the will of Abba Yahuwah, that you accept these arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, you have to understand, if he was dead set on not believing that he had to acknowledge the Abba, he wouldn't have never said. Now, you make sure that it is agreeable and that this is satisfactory to the Abba. Are you following me? You have to understand, and when I say things to people, I try to make sure that I tell people, okay, look, it worked for me, but you make sure you pray about it to see if this is the will of Abba Yahuwah for your life.
Right.
because that may not be for your life. It may not be for you to do it that way. But if so be it, then follow it and watch it bring the great results that are needed. And it is so.
And it is so.
All this people, shalom, the people will go back to their homes content with the decision given by the judges. Now listen at this, following the rabbis. Defines people as Moshe's principal colleagues, Aran, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders. Now remember, this is what they did. Now later on, I'm going to allude to why it was constantly the 70 elders, the rabbis, the constantly 70 elders, the 70 elders, because later on you're going to find out, even into the time of Yahush, why they wanted to make sure that they went back, grabbed that, and sanctioned that as being of utmost importance. Okay? Very important for us to understand that. All right, able men. Moshe was not able to find men possessing all the characteristics enumerated by Yitro and was compelled to appoint men with this one qualification. Moshe selected men whose qualification was discernible by the human eye. But as for such as fear Yahuwah, that would be known to him alone. So there were certain things that he could see. And one thing is for sure, when you are choosing people for certain things, they may not possess all of the characteristics,
right,
but at least let them possess that one quality, that they are Ahab Abba Yahuwah. Because when they are Ahab Abba Yahuwah, they're going to do whatever it takes to please him.
that's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Verse 27, and let thy father-in-law depart with ceremonial esteem. Because of his old age, Yethro did not accompany the Yashreelites to Canaan, but his children did. Into his own land to make converts to Yasharal's belief. Now, this is what it says, following a rabbinic tradition. Anytime you hear rabbinic, you're going to always find out, okay, this is what you all said in tradition, but the writing said he went back. So if he was coming to testify, then you know he was already testifying of those things. One thing that is very important for us to understand, I believe that there were others that believed and knew about Yahuwah. But remember, he called us to be his special people.
That's right.
So does that mean that there were no other people that knew about him? I don't believe that. I believe there were others that knew about him. But I believe that when he said, I chose you and called you to be a special treasure unto me, that's what that meant. Because there's no way he's going to be hidden from everybody.
Right.
He's too powerful. He's too magnificent. He's too magnanimous. How could he be hidden from everybody? But everybody is not his treasured possession.
Right.
Only those that he called out, which he called us out to be that people. So it's important to understand that. Are you following me?
Yes.
All right, let's cover chapter 19. Let's do it in 8 verses.
Chapter 19, and it reads. In the 3rd month, after the children of Yashua had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on this Yom they came to the wilderness of Sinai, where they set out from Rephidim, and they come to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Yashua camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Power and Yahuwah, and called to him from the mountain, saying, This is what you are to say to the house of Yaakov, and declare to the children of Yasharal. You have seen what I did to the Mitzrites, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then shall you be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Yasharal. And Moshe came and called for the elders and the people, and set before them all these words which Yahuwah had commanded him. And all the people answered together, and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken shall we do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahuwah, and it is so.
And it is so. Now, very important, because this is where now we establish where the agreement, and I've heard many people say, and it's sad that people will go to the extent and listen to people that don't want to walk in truth and say, well, that was only given to the children of Yahshua. We don't have to apply that to our lives now because we are not there and we were not the people that was there. very important to understand, a contract, whenever it is written up, there are contracts that can stand for generations and years and years and years.
Right.
Are you following me?
Yes.
Especially when there are contracts made between mishpachos. When you see families, mishpachas, and you see land, you're like, how in the world do they keep that land within their family all that time and nobody else can touch it? Contract. It's an agreement. There's a contract and agreement. Even when you see people, you start thinking, wow, their family is the only family work with them. Why? It's a contract.
Right.
That means that this family is going to raise up people in their family that's going to have doing that type of job or working there. And they stay there because that's a binding agreement. This is where we see the covenant, and we see this an agreement between the children of Yasharal. Now it says, the same Yom, that is the first of the month. The meaning of the phrase is perhaps the intention, and they journey from Rephidim to Mount Sinai in one stage. So it's saying that the phrase is possible that this is what it was referring to. They were departed from Rephidim. Why is this mentioned, since it was last stated that they encamped in Rephidim? According to 17:1. As they arrived at Sinai in a repentant mood, as shown by their unanimity, the comment, we don't want to look at the comment. So they departed from Rephidim with remorse for their conduct there. The true reason is that they made an unbroken journey from Rephidim to Sinai. So it meant they kept on going. And were come to the wilderness of Sinai. This clause appears to be superfluous as it breaks the thread of the narrative. The more logical sequence would be that they journeyed from Rephidim and they encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. Hence, the intervening words, and were come to the wilderness of Sinai, seem to point to the fact that as soon as the Yasharites came to the wilderness and found themselves in front of the mountain where the revelation was to take place, they gladly encamped there without seeking a more comfortable spot for their encampment. In other words, it says the time they was there, but they just kept it moving. You know, we'd be like, no stops, no breaks, straight, don't stop, don't go, don't stop and collect, just keep on going around the board. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
So they kept on going. All right, now, before the mount, the preposition is to be understood here as in other passages of scripture in the sense of facing toward the east. The Yasharites encamped on the east side of the mount. It is contended that it can denote any direction. And the reason it is important that we understand any direction is because most people pray towards the east. I'm going to tell you that is wrong. The reason why it is wrong is the same reason why we do not celebrate sunrise service. Because it is in the esteem of a deity. They pray toward the east because the sun rises where? Accordingly,
East.
in the east. So this was sun worship. And so when they prayed towards the east, this is why Abba Yahuwah got on them, because that's what they wanted. Even when you look in, when they crossed over the Jordan, and it was, I believe, Simeon and Reuben. Couldn't think of the man's name. I'm about to call him Rudolph. Had a brain fart. Reuben and Simeon, and even some of Manasseh stayed on the opposite side when they were supposed to cross over. According to the writings, they camped or they pitched their tents near the east. Why? Because they were still in a form of sun worship. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
So in doing so, this is why the Yahweh became very frustrated with them. And so this is why, once again, the commentator here says, or any direction. And I'm glad they alluded to that, so that it would not be etched in stone into many people's minds, because you have many people, where's the east? Why? Because we pray towards the east. Do you understand why you pray towards the east? Praying towards the east gives credence to the sun power, or the sun god. And this is why the children of Yasharal ended up getting in trouble. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
And this is why they said, well, they can't, and it was east, but really there is really no direct direction in which they were. And 9 times out of 10, it was not the east. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. Now, but it is safe to say that they were there. The mount previously mentioned. Moshe went up unto Yahuwah on the 2nd of the month. He ascended only part of the mountain, but did not penetrate the cloud which enveloped the summit. So he just went. Are you following?
Yes.
The house of Yaakov, a phrase denoting the women of Yasharal. Moshe was to speak to them kindly tones. It signifies the Yasharites then living and their descendants. The children of Yasharal. To the men, he was to detail the commandments and the penalty for their infraction. The elders who were to pass on the instructions to the masses. So once again, this is their scenario of saying that it was broken up. You had the women receiving and the men. Now, once again, I do not ever teach or preach a gender-based instructions, but I will allude to this and say this, that anytime if they're camped there and they come out, you have to understand when Moshe was governing or when he was judging their matters, it did not say there was a line for the men and there was a line for the women. They fell in line, and whoever's situation needed to be judged, whether you were male or female, wherever you were in that line, Moshe judged it all. Are you following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand that they were all there receiving the instructions as one, as a whole. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
Very important for us to understand that. All right. And verse 4, you have seen not from hearsay, nor from tradition, nor from written records, but from personal experience, how I bore you. As if I bore you, although the Yasharites were dispersed throughout Goshen, when the hour of liberation struck, they were all gathered together as if by a miracle in one brief moment at Ramses, and were thus able to leave Mitzrayim in a body. In other words, in one formation. This is why it is important that we understand that no matter where we are on the corners of the earth, that the Abba knows where we are and knows us how to bring us into that one geographical location to where when he's ready to get us up out of here, he knows where to take us. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
He knows where to get us, and he knows where we're all located on the 4 areas of on the 4 corners of the earth. And it is so. On eagle's wings, the eagles being the highest flying bird and therefore fearing no attack from above, carries its young on its wings to protect them from arrows shot from below. Likewise did Yahuwah extend Yasharal his protection by means of the pillar of cloud through which no missiles could pass. As the eagle carries its young through the air unconquered by man, so did Yahuwah lead Yasharal through the wilderness, a land that no man traversed. Yahuwah made Yasharal to march through the Reed Sea as the eagle flies across the sea. Now you have to understand, the greatest sight you ever see is an eagle in person.
Mm-hmm.
When we lived in Eastover, and it was at the time that I closed down the ministry because of certain things going on, and it was an agreement to close it down because of something that had happened. And then we were preparing to move, and when we did it and we were driving out, y'all, an eagle passed over our vehicle. And as I watched it pass, I said, I've never seen anything like that in my life. To me, now this was to me, that was a sign that what I was doing was right. Because that eagle, I ain't into, certain things. It wasn't mystical or nothing like that. But that thing was kind of, I'm like, this is saying something to me right now. And so I took it as a gesture that you were doing right. Another time we saw one was when we were sitting and we were at the lake and we just watching. And I looked out and I was like, is that an eagle? And it was eating some fish. And I was like, wow. And you have to understand, many people don't see them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, they are very rare, but I had the opportunity twice to see them, and they are gorgeous birds. Gorgeous birds. Are you following me?
Yes.
Gorgeous. And you use that, and they are awesome. They are fighters too. brought you unto myself, as the Targum renders, to my service, to this sacred mountain upon which my power has descended to become your power. Now, if you will hearken, indeed, literally, if to hearken, you will hearken. The doubling of the verb to express emphasizes the significance that only Yahshua would hearken to Yahuwah once. They would always in the future hearken to him, for it is the initial step that is difficult. Now we know that they had it hard. And the only reason why it was hard is because they made it hard. We can make our life easy or we can make it hard. Obedience is what makes the steps easier. Disobedience is what makes it hard and very difficult. Because when we obey him, it's not difficult. His commands are not difficult. He gives us what to do and how to do it.
Right.
What makes it difficult is when we're trying to add something else to it or do something else along with it. That's what makes it difficult. Are you following me?
Yes.
Now I want to read this, and then we're going to pray and prepare for lunch. I want to read this from the Zondervan book, Bible commentary. Keep my covenant. We understand its covenant. We understand its commands. I would prefer to look at it as his covenant. And you have to understand the importance of covenant, and the importance what comes with covenant are commands. There are prerequisites, and there are things that come along with covenant. And so, but this is very important. Keep my covenant, 19:5. One of the most crucial concepts to understanding ancient Yashraelites' way of life and the theology of the covenant is that the covenant, the Hebrew word for covenant is berit, essentially means a binding legal agreement, contract, and can refer to agreements in a wide variety of contexts, including personal, and we see that in Bereshit 31:44. Let's look at that real quick, because I want to show this real quick. These are 4 things we're going to look at, and then we're going to, like I said, we're going to pray. Bereshit 31:44. You know, because we need to make sure he's always involved in our lives.
That's right.
Don't ever think that he's not. Verse 31:44 reads, "And now come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be witness between you and me." Personal. This is a personal covenant. Now, when we go into familia, we see in Shemuel Aleph 20:16 and Malachi 2:14. Somebody get those for me. I have 1 Samuel 20:16, and it reads, "And Yehunathan made a covenant with the house of Dawood, saying, Yahuwah shall require it at the hand of the enemies of Dawood." Once again, these are covenants. Are you hearing me? Or contracts. And it's including, just kind of giving us a scenario of what contracts look like. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Malachi 2:14. Jeremiah 34:8. Yahus, the son of Nun, 9:6. And Aleph, Malachim 15:19. Let's look at Malachi 2:14. Who has that for me?
And you said, why? Because Yahuwah has been witness between you and the wife of your youth, against whom you have acted treacherously, though she is your companion and the wife of your covenant.
Okay. Aleph 15:19. That was Malachi. Excuse me.
Yes, 2:14.
2:14. Awesome. All right. Now, once again, this is talking about family, mishkapah. This is talking about showing agreements. And these are the things, just looking at what contracts include. Business. Let's look at business. Jeremiah 34, 8-10.
Yeah, so
And it is so.
Jeremiah 34, 8-10 reads, "This is the word that came unto Jeremiah from Yahuwah. After that the king
Zedekiah had made a covenant with all the people which were in Jerusalem, to proclaim liberty unto them, that every man should let his manservant and every man his maidservant, being a Hebrew or Hebrewess, go free, that none should serve himself of them, to wit, of a Hebrew his brother, excuse me. Now when all the princes and all the people which had entered into the covenant heard that everyone should let his manservant and everyone his maidservant go free, that none should serve themselves of them any more, then they obeyed and let them go. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, it's important. Now, this, y'all, I would encourage you to read chapter 7 and chapter 8 to get the full gist of what's going on here. This is where you began to see it, not to digress from the teaching, but to show you how this is why the Abba through Yahush is very adamant about how we do our poor, our less fortunate. Now you have to understand, he didn't say for the world, he's talking about our people. They had these were people who had our people in bondage. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
These were our people who had our own people in bondage and had them as slaves. And then when the word came to them, they were willing to let them go. But watch this, they changed their minds. They changed their minds. But it's just showing us and the international setting. This goes along the international setting. No, this is business. This is the business aspect of it. I'm sorry. Business. Why would this be business? Because you have to understand they were basically hired to keep the business of those that were being spoken of, those that were of high echelon. Are you hearing me? The children of Yashro, as they were greedy, and this is what they were doing. And so the Abba got on them for how they were conducting business. Are you following me?
Yes.
So that's business. All right, now when we go into Yahush the son of Nun, this is international settings. So let's look at 9 and 6 of Yahush the son of Nun.
And it is.
All right, read that for me.
Yahush chapter 9, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to Yahush unto the camp at Gilgal, and said unto him and to the men of Yasharal, we come from a far country, now therefore make you a league with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, international settings. This is important that we understand whenever you're dealing with contract, covenant, it deals with a variety of aspects.
Mhm.
It's not just based upon one thing. And so it's important that we see that. All right. Malachim, Aleph 15 and 19. And it reads, Pulled the sovereign of Ashur came against the land, and Menachem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver for his hand to be with him to strengthen the reign in his hand. Once again, we're talking about international covenants or settings. Very important. And the reason I wanted to read that is so that we could see what covenant looks like. Now, I want to say this, and once again, we're going to pray and break for a time for lunch. And so it's important that we understand that when we make a covenant with the Abba, that covenant is not just, once I keep the commandments or try to keep at them, it's that. No, you have to understand this contract is based upon his sovereignty over our entire lives. That means business aspect. That means our health. That means our mishpachah. Above all, we know without even having to say it, it begins with our ruach first. But then there are other settings or other things that are incorporated in this contract and covenant. He's concerned about our complete and total well-being. So it's not just about, once again, I know the 10 commandments, that's enough. No, if you are not involving him or making him the center of your business, then you are not in the contract. If you have not made him the center and given him the full right to your mishpachah, you have not understood covenant and contract. It means our total being. It means everything that we deal with in life. We've given him the sovereign rule and reign over it.
Mhm.
That's what contract is. And the children of Yasharal, when we come back, Yahuwah willing, we will see that they did not want to abide but a portion of that contract. That's why they kept getting into trouble. You got to believe in the full contract or the full covenant. Not just, well, this is the only part, that I really want to keep. The rest of it, I think I can deal on my own. Once we signed and accepted that covenant, we agreed to it.
That's right.
That meant teaching our children. That meant preparing ourselves. So it's very important that we understand these things and that we not, what I'm trying to say, take it out of its context and to me only a minimal aspect or portion of our lives is to be given over to the governing of the covenant. It means our complete entire life is contracted or under covenant to the Yahweh.
Right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. I pray that thus far you have enjoyed this portion and this time of class. I pray that you will join us back at 8:05. Come back, be with us as we will come back and finish the conclusion to the matter and hear the end of this thing to see what takes place. Once again, I want you to be encouraged to celebrate and commemorate this time of rest. I want you to remember that we're praying with you and we are praying for you. We ahab you. I am Aliyah Yasharal and I am the leader of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom Hebraic Belief congregation located in South Carolina. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom Hebraic Belief congregation, this is the place where
the Torah does the body excellent.
Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where the champions reside. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so.